Hi, BookTube. Welcome back to the History Shelf. Today is the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, and I thought this would be a very fitting day to show some new military history releases that have come across the desk here at the History Shelf. These are all from Casemate, and it would be cool if I had one on Pearl Harbor. There's a couple books I plan on ordering about Pearl Harbor. I've read a lot about Pearl Harbor. I don't have those books ready at hand to show you, but I would recommend At Dawn We Slept, which was a great narrative history, kind of real page turner, a history on Pearl Harbor. Of course, there have been tons of revisionist history and did FDR know and did he not know and all this kind of stuff. But just encourage you, if you've always wanted to read about Pearl Harbor, maybe pick up At Dawn We Slept. And of course, I'm forgetting the name of the author. It's by Gordon Prange. What am I saying? Gordon Prange, Prange. Okay, so, but anyway, for the purposes of this here video, we're going to talk about a bunch of new military history releases from Casemate publishers. And the first one is a Civil War book I'm really excited to show you guys, because you know me, I love my Civil War history. This is Voices of the Army of the Potomac, personal reminiscences of Union veterans by Vincent L. Burns. Oh, I think this might be, no, it's not. I thought it might be General Gregg on the back. That my somewhat related through marriage ancestor from the Civil War, but that was not him. Anyway, let's get into this one. It can be said that writing about the Civil War by those that fought it started before the ink was dry on the Appomattox surrender document. Beyond the letters and the diary entries during the war years, veterans would continue to write about their experiences well into the next century. With few exceptions, each regiment produced a unit history, and veterans, be they generals or privates, recorded their reminiscences and memoirs. Only a few spoke of the audience they hoped to reach with these publications, but left unsaid and perhaps not even fully understood was an earnest desire to share their memory and thoughts with future generations. The war had been the most significant event of their lives, and it was important to them that we should know. Voices of the Army of the Potomac gives us an overview of what these veterans put on paper, revealing something of what they recalled or chose to recall. The cast of characters attempts to span the scope of the Army of the Potomac's vast population, from the highly educated to the barely literate, those of high rank who left a mark on the war, to those whose fingerprints reside only on the writing paper they touched. That is a really well-written synopsis. That was beautiful. We have a beautiful collection of letters. Well, there's John Buford. I love reading the primaries. Oh, there's General Gregg. Oh my God, I just turned right to it. Oh my God, I might actually find more stuff here. This is chapter 4. On one vast field of intense, earnest action, Brandy Station, June 9th, 1863, General David McMurtry Gregg was the one of the Union cavalry's most promising generals at the time. Very understated man, very quiet, didn't draw a lot of attention to himself like some of his comrades. I'm looking at you, Custer. But he was highly regarded by his men. And I just kind of flicked to it. It says right here, General David Gregg with 3rd Division. Oh, this is dope. So I'm excited. I wonder if I might even find some of Gregg's writing in here. I'll check it out later. But brand new release from Casemate, Voices of the Army of the Potomac. Very, very happy to have this for my collection. Can't wait to start reading it. Okay, let's see if I can kind of keep these grouped. Got a lot of World War II. And then some older stuff. right, before we go into like modern warfare and World War II, I'll go to this one right here. This looks really good. I've been wanting to fill in this gap in my knowledge of this period in British royal monarchy. And I haven't read a lot about the Stuarts, but I want to understand them more. And I'm hoping this one will also help me. This is James II and the First Modern Revolution, The End of Absolute Monarchy by John van der Kist. This is put out by Pen and Sword, which is an imprint of good old Casemate. It says here, in February 1685, James II succeeded his brother Charles II on the English throne. His popularity had soared and fallen during his brother's reign. During a period of less than 40 years that had seen the execution of their father, Charles II, the proclamation of a republic, and restoration of the monarchy a few years later, nothing could be taken for granted, but the omens for a reign of stability seemed good. However, James was a deeply flawed character who lacked his brother's pragmatism. Obstinate, arrogant, alternately pious and debauched, he was little liked by most of those who knew him well. Within 3 years, his efforts to promote and advance Catholicism in a nation that had predominantly embraced the Protestant faith had alienated and exhausted the patience of his subjects, the aristocracy and the church, who jointly appealed to William, Prince of Orange, and his nephew and son-in-law to intervene and protect English liberties. James fled his kingdom, and the glorious revolution was swiftly achieved with very little bloodshed. This book examines how the forces of Anglicanism and Jacobitism, the Jacobitism collided, how a monarch came to forfeit so much goodwill so quickly, and through his own folly aided the effortless victory of the man and his wife, William and Mary, James's own daughter, who replaced him on the throne and at last brought a period of calm to a country that had only recently endured civil war and years of upheaval. So this will be a fantastic read. Wow. John van der Kist, our author here, he has written a lot. Queen Victoria's Children, Kaiser Wilhelm II. He's written The End of the Habsburgs. Oh, fantastic. It's replete with a lot of pictures and paintings on the inside here. And there's our James, Duke of York here. Pretty fancy. Love that hair. Focus. There we go. James II and the First Modern Revolution. Right. And I just got I got these two just yesterday. So these are the most recent, and then I'll dip back into the ones I kind of saved them up for you guys a little bit and try to group them all together. Well, let's do this one first. This is part of a new series that I wanted to check out. And if I like the series as far as like how it, what its focus is, definitely, like the series is called From Musket to Maxim, 1815 to 1914, and this is number 16 in the series. You see down here. But this is Dust of Glory, the First Anglo-Afghan War, 1839 to 1842, Its Causes and Course by Bill Whitburn. This is put out by Helion, an imprint, distributed by Casemate. I've always been interested, one of my last, I think one of my Hamilton book hauls, was it? I showed you I got The Return of a King, about Britain's first Afghan war, and I've always been fascinated by it. And this is another book that kind of complements that, but from the aspect of from musket to Maxim would indicate, the technology, the weaponry, and how it has advanced over the decades and centuries. But this is fantastic. But the history here takes you all the way back. And a nice big glossy, almost like textbook, squeaky pages. They're just very glossy paper. Beautiful. It's like a textbook almost. So I'll read this to you real quick. The Russian-sponsored attack by the Shah of Persia on Herat was the latest move in the long-running tournament of predominant influence in Central Asia, called the Great Game. Its proximity to India could not be tolerated, as it threatened British designs for the expansion of trade along the Indus Valley. Urged on by hawkish secretaries, hoodwinked by the wily Maharaja of Punjab, and prompted by his political masters in London, the ostensibly peaceful Governor-General of India, Lord Auckland, ordered the assembly of a vast army to counter the Persian move. The opportunity was also to be used to replace Shah Shuja, back on his ancestral throne of Afghanistan. At the 11th hour, Persia withdrew from its failed attack, and to many a sage observer, Lord Auckland should have ordered his army back to barracks. Instead, an army of 10,000 soldiers, 50,000 transport animals, and 30,000 camp followers advanced in December 1839 for the single purpose of regime change. And we all know how well that goes. From the very first blare of bugles and the cracking of whips, this glorious army was to prove that the path to hell is paved with good intentions. In Dust of Glory, the author explores the causes of the First Anglo-Afghan War and describes its course, gleaned from a multitude of sources, supported by 17 sketch maps of key actions. No lessons were learnt, as 5 more conflicts were to follow in this country that only produces fruit, nuts, and opium. Okay, it's kind of a backhanded. Okay, alrighty, Dust of Glory. By Bill Whitburn. So kind of excited. So this is like, I might check out the other books in this series. Again, this is number 16 in the series, and I'm trying to find some of the other books in this series. Maybe it's at the back of the book here. There's a lot going on. There's a nice big description of what this series is, from Musket to Maxim. 1815 to 1940. Okay, 14. Okay. The new title of this series. I told you it was about weaponry change, probably, and it says that it talks about the period from 1815 to 1914. And the dramatic change in the technology of war in this period is reflected in the new title of the series, From Musket to Maxim. It says the new title better reflects the fact that the series covers all nations and all conflict of the period between 1815 to 1914. It says already the series has commissioned books that deal with matters outside the British experience. That's outstanding. What was this called before? I'm trying to find it. But it says here, the aim of the series is to throw the spotlight on the conflicts of that century, which can often get overlooked, sandwiched as they are between 2 major conflicts, the French Revolutionary Napoleonic Wars and the First World War. Okay. Okay, so now I know, yes, and I have a list of the books that are in this series. Oh, this is very cool. So it looks at smaller conflicts, again, as it was stating here, sandwiched in between the bigger ones, and that they're going to take a more of a global look, too. It doesn't have to be just about Britain. But, I'm going to check out From Musket to Maxim. All right. And this is the other book. This is more of a contemporary, kind of a... not current events, but more, and a little bit of a memoir, but I love stuff like this. I love reading about special ops guys. This is Ranger 22, Lessons from the Front by Ray Goggins. And apparently this is a show somewhere over in, I don't know, RTE's Special Forces Ultimate Hell Week. It's probably a show that I would like to watch. This is his memoir of being, well, let me just read it to you. From the hills of South Lebanon to the monsoon jungles of Southern Asia, Ray Goggins, or Ranger 22, has operated in a life-and-death world. In the suffocating humidity of Liberia, the mountains of Afghanistan, and the snow-covered Balkans, Ray has seen the best and worst qualities in himself and others. From conflict zones to terrorist attacks and hostage rescues, Ray has learned the greatest life lessons: how to control fear, how to react calmly and positively, and how to create a strong baseline from which to take action. After a life spent on the front line in the Army Ranger Wing of the Irish Defence Forces, Irish, Ray now trains others to foster a mindset to handle whatever madness life has in store. In this remarkable book, he takes us on an exhilarating journey through his incredible career and draws on the valuable lessons to help all of us deal better with life, whatever the situation. So, that's cool. Got some pictures on the inside here. You can't go wrong with some life lessons from a soldier, right? I mean, talk about knowing how to survive. Very cool. I just like reading about soldiers and their experiences, and what lessons they've learned from combat or preparation, training, discipline, self-sacrifice, that kind of stuff. So, brand new book. This is from Gill, but it's put out Gill Books from overseas, I'm reckoning. But Casemate is pushing this one out, so I'm very excited. All right. Let's go into some World War II here. I've always loved reading about the U-boats in World War II. Okay. Oh, but maybe this one might be actually, is this World War II or World War I? No, it's World War II. I've always been interested in submarine warfare. Just the experience of going to sea in a submarine. I've never been in one, but the claustrophobia I would feel would paralyze me probably. But, Das Boot is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's up there. Top 10 for sure. But what we have here is a brand new book. It's also put up by Pen and Sword. But First U-Boat Flotilla by Lawrence Patterson. Look at that cover. All right. It says here, the U-boat campaign during the Second World War was rated by many, including Winston Churchill, as the single greatest threat to the Allied cause. The wolf packs of Admiral Donitz wreaked havoc within the Atlantic until brought to heel by superior resources, new tactics, and breakthroughs in the intelligence war. First U-Boat Flotilla traces the history of this key formation from 1935, when the first of the Third Reich's U-boats was commissioned at Kiel, through its build-up, early successes, the move to Brest, and the long, unremitting struggle against increasingly overwhelming odds. The flotilla's history ends in September 1944, with the surviving sailors fighting in trenches around the Brest citadel. The 9-year life of the flotilla makes for fascinating reading in this meticulously researched work. Many of its captains, such as Otto Kretschmer, Erich Topp, and Reinhard Suren, remain legendary figures today. Operations undertaken were as diverse as they were geographically spread. This account goes right to the heart of U-boat warfare and gives a detailed insight into the men, equipment, strengths and weaknesses, successes and failures of an elite force which, while feared by its enemies, was also grudgingly respected. So just a great read on, the U-boat man, the wolf pack. Again, it's a niche interest of mine of World War II and World War I. I mean, even the early prototypes of the submarines in World War I. I mean, it's just all fascinating to me. It's a little niche interest of mine from World War II are the U-boats for sure. So I'm excited for this. All right, and then back on the ground for World War II, also looking at it from the German standpoint. Now we're going to look at Blitzkrieg. And this is Blitzkrieg from the Ground Up by Nicholas Zetterling. Sorry for the glare there. It's a Casemate book right here. Brand new. And it says here, pardon me for a second. The successes of the German Blitzkrieg in 1939 to 41 were as surprising as they were swift. Allied decision Allied decision makers wanted to discover the secret to German success quickly, even though only partial, incomplete information was available to them. The false conclusions drawn became myths about the Blitzkrieg that have lingered for decades. It has been argued that German victories in the early part of the war rested less upon newly developed tanks and aircraft and more on German military traditions. Rather than creating a new way of war based on new technology, the Germans fitted the new weapons into their existing ideas on warfare. These doctrines focused on independent action, initiative, flexibility, decentralized decision making, and mobility. The conduct of German soldiers, particularly the lower ranking men on the battlefield, was at the core of the concept, and German victories rested upon the quality of the small combat units. This book focuses on the experience of the enlisted men and junior officers in the Blitzkrieg operations in Poland, Norway, Western Europe, and Russia. Using accounts previously unpublished in English, military historian Nicholas Zetterling explores how they operated. For example, how a company commander led his tanks, how a crew worked together inside a tank, and the role of the repair services. They had a role too. The author fits these narratives into a broader perspective to give the reader a better understanding of why the Germans were so successful in 1939 to 41. So, literally from the ground up. Look at that. Look at this guy. He's just kicking it on the tank. Got a lot of maps, tables. Pretty cool. So it gives you just the lower rank, the lower level guys. Gives you their experience of Blitzkrieg. Nicholas Zetterling. So very excited. All right. Let's see. Got a few more here. All right. This one is a book I'm going to add to my Cold War collection. And should do a lot towards kind of... Been reading a lot of Cold War earlier in the year, and I really enjoyed it, and I'd like to get back to it with something here, just about the spy agencies and such. But we have Capital of Spies, Intelligence Agencies in Berlin during the Cold War, by Sven Felix Kellerhoff and Bernd von Kostka, translated by Lyndon Lyons. And this is a Casemate book. A small little volume. It says here, from almost half a century, the hottest front in the Cold War was right across Berlin. From the summer of 1945 until 1990, the secret services of NATO and the Warsaw Pact fought an ongoing duel in the dark. Throughout the Cold War, espionage was part of everyday life in both East and West Berlin, with spies operating across the city, both for German intelligence services and foreign powers. The construction of the wall in 1961 changed the political situation and the environment for espionage. The invisible front was now concrete and unmistakable, but the fundamentals had not changed. Berlin was and would remain the capital of spies until the fall of the Berlin Wall, a fact which makes it all the more surprising that there are hardly any books about the work of the secret services in Berlin during the Cold War. Well, I'm surprised that they're saying that there's hardly any. Journalist Sven Felix Kellerhoff and historian Bernd von Kostka describe the spectacular successes and failures of the various secret services based in the city. Wow. Oh, goodness. Lots of pictures peppered throughout, photographs and such. That looks like the like a bust of Hitler's head over here. Right, looks what the... Yeah. Yep, they're recycling it. Best thing to do. Very cool. So, nice little study with lots of visual aids and such. Goes right on my Cold War shelf. Awesome. All right, then we're going to go, let's see here. Well, this kind of goes back to British history and how it its interplay with, or interference with, I should say, Libya. And, okay, so this is Liberating Libya, British Diplomacy and War in the Desert, by Rupert Wylock. Hope I pronounced that okay. It's a Casemate book. And then, by the way, these are all brand new releases. These are the final copies that I have here. So let's see here. Where should I begin this? We're at 25 minutes here. Okay. Let's see. We'll go here. Libya is the 16th largest country in the world and has the largest oil and gas reserves in Africa. A decade after the revolution that began on February 17, 2011, the country seems no better off with a continual civil war that prevents its friends from establishing diplomatic missions and deters inward investment, leading former President Obama to describe the situation as chaos. On December 24th, 2021, Libya will celebrate its 70th anniversary. Wow, 70th anniversary as an independent country with planned national elections. It is also the 80th anniversary of the iconic siege of Tobruk that became as much a symbol of Allied defiance against fascism as Dunkirk or the Blitz. Liberating Libya reveals the truth behind the Anglo-Libyan relationship, from the British explorers who completed the first survey of the coast in 1821 to the desert rats who freed Libya from fascist overlords and the special forces who helped the Thuwar defeat. It's an interesting word, Thuwar. It's Thuwaar. I'll have to look that up. Who helped the Thuwar defeat Colonel Gaddafi. This is the first comprehensive account of Britain's enduring assistance to Libya. So maybe not interference, but assistance. It does say liberating Libya. So I'm intrigued. When I saw this was coming on the horizon, I said, you know what? I'd like to learn more about this. It's got some good stuff here. Rupert Wylock. Okay. Casemate always has such great stuff. I just get lost in the catalog sometimes. We start off with like British consuls and explorers. Got some nice photos of like the ancient regions of that area with the ruins. We got part 2 is a reluctant colony, 1880 to 1940. Talbot of Tobruk. So it's amply illustrated throughout. So another fantastic entry into the military history field here on my shelves. All right. Okay. This one, it was interesting. I thought I'd check this out. I haven't read a lot about like ace or fighter pilots or things like that or their experiences, but this one kind of sounded intriguing to me. This is Along for the Ride, Navigating Through the Cold War, Vietnam, Laos, and More. And it says Watching Pilots Perform Miracles. And it's by Henry Zabel. And this is put out by Casemate. Yeah, this is a military history memoir. Let's see. The Cold War, complicated by, so this kind of, this actually goes down with my Cold War shelf. Very cool. The Cold War, complicated by conflicts such as the Vietnam War, dominated the second half of the 20th century for the United States military. During that time, Henry Zabel crewed as a navigator on strategic bombers and tactical aircraft from 1955 to 1976. He recreates his history of years of waiting on alert with nuclear weapons, along with 4 tours in Southeast Asia as a crew member and staff officer. Zabel flew 772 combat support sorties in Hercules transports in South Vietnam and 158 interdiction missions in Spectre gunships in Laos. He took part in operations during the siege of Khe Sanh and the incursion into Ashal Valley. He recollects his share of narrow escapes, but gives greater emphasis to those experienced by close friends over North and South Vietnam and Laos. He extols the capability of flyers to contend with the challenges of enemy forces, multiplied by contentious decisions of supposedly friendly commanders. Humor frequently underlies his vitriolic perspectives. Yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy this book. I like when the old soldiers and airmen just, they don't hold back. They're not being PC. They just, they let her rip. So you go and be vitriolic, dude. I'm down. Says here, views of his boyhood life parallel Zabel's accounts of his military experience. In retirement, His life has included extensive traveling, 20 years of tutoring rhetoric to student athletes at the University of Texas, and writing more than 300 book reviews for the Vietnam Veterans of America and Air Power History Quarterly. Fabulous. Oh, there's a picture of our author here. It's not focusing very well, but that's very cool. There's some color photos in the insert. Pictures of him as a younger man. That's pretty cool. So another military memoir that I'll be eager to take a look at. And then I have really two books and a new type of series from Casemate. They're called Casemate Illustrated Specials. And they remind me of the old Time Life books, you know, that you used to order, or you could subscribe to them. I know I bought like the Time Life books on like Civil War, Old West. And these are just like straight up hardcovers. There's no gloss or enamel or padding like the Old West books did. But they have that type of size. It's like, you know, it's not big enough to be a coffee table display book, but it's definitely reminds me of the Time Life books that put out. But this new series is very graphic like in bad. But it obviously it says illustrated, so tons and tons of photographs, drawings, maps, and such. I was super excited to get a chance to take a look at this series, but especially on this topic, because it made me think of Robert K. Massey's fantastic works on dreadnoughts and castles of steel. Look at this book. And this is Dreadnoughts and Super Dreadnoughts by Chris McNabb. And as you can see, it's the Casemate Illustrated Special. And see, doesn't that look like a Time Life like book back in the day? Very cool. I'll just try to read a portion of this. We're at 32 minutes here. When HMS Dreadnought was commissioned into Britain's Royal Navy in 1906, this revolutionary all-big-gun warship transformed the tactics of naval warfare as much as it reshaped international relations. Powered by steam turbines, heavily armored and equipped with 10 12-inch guns mounted in 5 turrets, Dreadnought was like no other warship then on the high seas. Such was its significance that it sparked a frenetic international naval arms race as world powers sought to emulate and improve on the design, creating the class of ships we know today as dreadnoughts. For the next 3 decades, dreadnought battleships and their successors, the super dreadnoughts, dominated the waves, with Germany, the United States, Japan, Russia, and other nations vying to build their own all-big-gun warships. The dreadnoughts and super dreadnoughts would come to blows in earnest during World War I, notably at the Battle of Jutland, the greatest clash of naval firepower in history. So this book, illustrated with over 200 images, including historical photographs and technical drawings, provides detailed insight into the design, operation, and combat history of these epic-defining weapons, including ship layout, propulsion and engineering, gunnery, and fire control. It also explains the life of the crew, drawing on dramatic first-hand accounts and other primary source material from the world's navies. Yes. So yeah, the Casemate Illustrated Specials, the series, says offers unparalleled detail into the weapons, equipment, and machinery of war. I might have to get some more on this, but look at this. Let's open her up, shall we? Oh, wow. I'm thinking of Mark Richardson over at Richardson's Reads would just love this. Look at all this. Look at this level of detail over it. They said it were detailed technical drawings. No kidding. With over 200, and like here's a chapter heading, like firepower. Ooh. Wow. In profile sections, turbines. Look at this, turbine power. I mean, like these cross-section like graphics here, the cutaways from dreadnoughts to super dreadnoughts. This is just something that's fantastic to, to just leaf through with a cup of tea one day, you know? Because, you know, it's mostly illustrations more than text, but there's text, but it's very, very visual. So, dreadnoughts and super dreadnoughts. I'm very excited to try this new series, and maybe I can look at some more. I'll have to look at their catalog and see what other ones are available. Now, this one's different. This one might have been sent to me in addition. I don't know if I requested this one or not. But you know what? It's all part of the series, so I'm going to check it out. This is U.S. Army Signal Corps Vehicles, 1941 to 45 by Didier Andres. It's a little skinnier than the other one, not as much there. But all about the transport vehicles, right? That the Signal Corps used. Let's go ahead and read a little bit about this. The U.S. Army Signal Corps was at the forefront of the technological development of communications throughout World War II. Tasked with coordinating all American military activities, the Signal Corps initially had to rely on a communications landline network covering some 1.3 million kilometers. This was soon overtaken by radio communications. However, adaptation remained a priority within the U.S. Army Signal Corps, for when landline networks were unavailable or radio silence had to be observed. Almost every large piece of Signal Corps equipment required wheeled transport, and over 100 vehicles and trailers would be specially designed, many associated with one particular radio or radar installation. So this fully illustrated account describes all the vehicles needed to move, use, and maintain the communications equipment vital to the success of the U.S. Army during World War II. Whether they were specialized vehicles such as telephone repair trucks, mobile telephone switchboards, and homing pigeon units. This is fascinating. Yeah. Woo. Right? Let's see here. Oh, they really. There is no leaf unturned when it comes to World War II history. I mean, the fact that a book could be written on it. Oh, look at the inside of this one's nice. Pretty cool. Yeah, the fact that you could write a whole book on the vehicles that supported the communications equipment or transported the communications equipment of the Signal Corps. Pretty cool. And it goes to show you there's gearheads everywhere. But very interesting. So these two books are the first of their kind on my shelves. But I'm super excited for Dreadnought and Super Dreadnoughts. So, but I'm going to see what else they have available in the series. All right. Well, we're almost at the end. I think I've done everything except this final one, which is one of Casemate's new releases in their fiction genre, which they've done recently. And I've shown you several of their new fiction books that they've been printing or in some cases reprinting, I think. Because some were written a while ago, I believe. Like this one was written... well, no, this one is new. But I think there were a couple of others that might have been reprints. But this is great. This goes back to World War I, baby. There we go. And I love their cover artwork. It's just great. And this is A Cast of Falcons by Philip Perotti. Look at that. Those biplanes there. Casemate. So let me read this to you. Young pilots of the Royal Flying Corps take to the air above the Sinai Desert in 1916 to fight German pilots flying far superior aircraft. Will their determination and aggressive spirit be enough to prevail? Lieutenant Devlin Collins, an Irish-American pilot, expecting to fly in the Western Front, instead finds himself flying antiquated two-seater bomber and photo reconnaissance missions over the Egyptian desert against the forces of the Central Powers, which are trying to capture the Suez Canal. Constantly endangered by superior German machines, facing incessant ground fire during their bombing and strafing attacks, Dev and his fellow pilots drive home their attacks with unremitting determination. In their off hours from combat, Dev discovers that he has a particular talent for planning his flight's air raids, which will prove crucial in the campaign's culminating attack on the German redoubts at the Battle of Magdaba. So, A Cast of Falcons, guys. Another brand new fiction installment and from Casemate. Again, I've got several of these, and I need to report back on a couple as well. So, let me know what you think of the latest offerings of military history as we remember and honor the memory of all those who fell and who served at Pearl Harbor and beyond in World War II. So just keep them in your mind and maybe watch a documentary and pick up a book. Pick up a book and learn about Pearl Harbor. You know, I'm all about read more history. I can't stress that enough. That you can't know anything about the world or the other people in it unless you know what has happened in the past. And I mean, there's nothing profound there. It's just, to me, common sense. But read more history. I mean, to me, it's better than fiction because these were real people and these things happened. It's hard for me to let go anymore. I can read historical fiction because I feel like it's serving a purpose and it actually is history in some sense. You know, I've been wanting to well, I keep thinking like, maybe I'll try reading this. Maybe I should branch out. Maybe I should read science fiction. Maybe I should do something. And then I'm like, yeah, okay. And then I try to like read a few pages. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Oh, I'm sorry. That's just me. It's all because it's in the service of I want to know something. I want to learn something. And I don't really learn anything from reading fantasy or science fiction or, oh gosh, even some fiction, right? Some contemporary stuff that goes out. But that's just me. This is why my channel is called The History Shelf. I'm all about history. And you know I love my military history, and that's why I wanted to bring you military history today on Pearl Harbor Day. So with that, please leave your comments below if you have any. I would love to hear from you. And thanks for subscribing, if you do subscribe. And thanks for all the likes. And you guys are wonderful. And until next time, I will be back soon with more at the History Shelf. You know it. Take care. Bye.